Good evening. Good evening. I'm Doug Handy.
And I'm Abir Shinawi, and this is Real Talk, Our Space. Welcome to everyone.
Yes, yes. Welcome. So, Abir,
Yes.
good to see you here.
Likewise.
So tonight's a special show. We think every episode is a special episode.
Correct.
But tonight, I think it's really time to take our listeners, our viewers to school, if you will. We have a topic that I would venture to say many of our viewers may not be familiar with.
Mhm.
And that might be my own bias because I was not familiar until Abir brought it to me as a potential topic. And it's the Kisaan movement, a farmers' protest of India. And for those that saw our flyer, you can see our background today. We're going to give you that as the hook, if you will. It's really exciting, though, because we have three guests who are really going to take us throughout the whole movement and really, bring us from, if you're like me, a novice. And I've done a little background reading, but they're going to bring us from that novice point of view, really to get a good working knowledge of what the Kisaan movement's all about.
I agree. And so actually I can't take credit for this. I can take credit for bringing the idea to fruition, but I got to give a shout out to my good man, Japneet, who's always front and center. I've heard of the farmers' protest before. I didn't know much about it because there's just so much going on and I didn't have time to do my own research. But he brought it to my attention and said, hey, would you be willing to do the show? And I said, of course I will. I personally have always been an advocate for our Sikh students in Baltimore County and in general, and however we can get more information about the Sikh community and just the amazing things that they do worldwide and their history. I still have to do that bit of Sikh history in America. Like if you go to California, they've got deep roots there as well between also the Sikh community and the Mexican-American community. It's fascinating. I'm learning this new every day. But the more we can, highlight what's going on with our brothers and sisters around the world, I think it's great. So I really have to give a shout out to Japneet for giving us this idea. And I'm really excited again for the show because we've got a really great show. I feel old because all three of our panelists are much younger, very accomplished.
Very accomplished, yes.
Yes, but I love the energy that they're going to bring. So, I'm looking forward to the show as well.
Yep. And it's really exciting. We always want to tell people, please subscribe. I mean, it's funny. I want to give my aunt a shout out. She said, I want to subscribe. I want to tell people how much does it cost? So, you just assume it's free, right? All you got to do is click a button. It costs you to click a button. So please do go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and continue to be with us along the way. And we also appreciate all the comments from our viewers. Actually, this might be a first. I don't know if it's a first. We actually got our first comment before we wrapped up in studio. So you see we got our IG, our email, our Twitter handle, and I do want to share this comment from our Motaza before we go on, bring our guest on rather. So he mentions wonderful painting of a farmer in a real distress who was helpless against an ironic government. And hopefully you've seen the flyer and you see it in the backdrop, a very powerful image and really, I think, sets the tone for this evening's episode. So with no further ado, shall we bring on our guest?
Absolutely. So first of all, here we have our first guest is Ramneet Singh. He is the co-founder of Punjabis of South Jersey and a member of Rutgers Camden Sikh Student Association, and who just recently graduated from nursing school and is working on his doctorate, I believe he told us. Amazing.
Yes. Yep. Our second amazing guest is actually a return guest. We are very happy to see him return. It's Karanveer Panu. You may recall he's the author of Bullying of Sikh American Children Through the Eyes of a Sikh American High School Student. And Karanveer is very much on his way within the, I would say, political science, civic realm. He's done some interning for Senator Cory Booker. So again, we've got some wonderful accomplished guests, and we have one more guest. Right?
Yes, and we have Taj Kaur, who is the vice president of the Sikh Student Association. She earned a bachelor's in food science technology and is a PharmD candidate, and that has a lot to do with what we're going to be talking about today. So as you hear from our panelists, I mean, we've got some very, very highly intelligent people who we would like to bring on right now.
Yep. Alrighty, here they.
Hello. And
Alrighty.
So before we begin, thank you, welcome all for being here. We would all just like to also wish Karanveer a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Karanveer. What a
Thank
great
you for
way to
spending it with us.
right.
I know, right?
Yeah. So, you're, I don't know, 18 again. I don't know how old you are. So happiest of birthdays, and wish you many more happy days and healthy times. So we wanted to give that out first. All right. So we start our show always asking our guests, what is your migration story? Your family or your migration? How would you want to tell us about that?
All right. I guess I'll start out first. I was actually born in the United States. I'll talk more about my parents' background and basically how it helped me grow as a person. So my parents came to the United States. My mom came in 1982, and my dad came in 1993. So they all came from a middle-class family from India, just coming here for a better opportunity, better job opportunities, and just a better lifestyle in general. And they came to America and they started working everyone has a story where they come with no money, right? So they came with $20 and they started from the bottom and they just started working from there. And to have 3 children, and basically the story goes from there. They started from having warehouse jobs, working at gas stations, working at convenience stores, and they just built their way up and raised 3 children that 2 have graduated college and 1 is actually in college right now.
Wow, that's a great story. I'm sure they're very proud.
Yeah.
Are you the oldest from Nate?
No, I actually have a older brother who's a nurse practitioner.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. So my name is Taj, and my dad actually moved to America in the late 70s. He actually, his first job even in America was on a farm in California. So even though I was like born and raised in the States, I know that every generation before mine made a living off farming. So this protest is really close to my heart. And also, you know, like my dad told me stories about how when he was young and how hard life was for him and his family, how he couldn't even afford shoes, how when they came to America, they had to even pawn their land to buy tickets to come to this country. So I know that if I wasn't in America right now, I would be going through that same struggle. And if today I have the resources to be a voice, I should try my best to be a voice for the oppressed right now.
I love it. Love it. And this is the platform for it, Taj, today. So thank you.
Hi, so my name is Karanveer, and I guess I can start with my great-grandfather because he actually came to Oregon State in 1917 to study agriculture. And that's kind of where I draw my inspiration from. The whole family's heavily involved in academics and just trying to raise awareness. And Dad came on later, and he studied at the same university I'm studying at Rutgers. So it's like a family thing. And yeah, so we've been here for quite some time now.
That's wonderful. No, thank you for sharing your stories. Yep.
Thank you. So let's just jump right into our topic for the evening. Explain the Kisaan movement. And you all could just, jump in, whoever wants to take turns. And
Todd, if you want to go.
Yeah, Todd.
Okay.
Todd is the expert.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, let me explain the law, like what the bills are first. So basically, the government wants to just deregulate the agriculture sector of India. And to briefly explain the 3 new farm bills, these new farm bills will first eliminate the mandi system. So the mandi system is like a local marketplace that's established by the state government. And these are essential to assure that farmers are given the MSP. So the MSP is the minimum support price, and this is what the government sets to ensure that farmers are given fair prices for their harvest. And then also these bills will allow the storage or hoarding of any commodity or food product. And why this is a problem? Because first of all, India is a third world country with a high poverty rate and lots of corruption. So when private corporations come in, the results are obvious. What they're going to do is they're going to offer the farmers extremely low prices
Right.
And these farmers are going to have no bargaining leverage. And then with the storage thing, 90 to 95% of these farmers do not have the resources to build storage. So at the end of the day, it's obvious that these bills are designed to make farmers the slaves of private corporations.
Right. Wow. So that led to the Kisaan movement.
Yeah. But the thing is, this is actually like, I feel like this is a breaking point for the farmers.
Okay.
There's always been so many issues, like with the water, the seeds, and this was like the last breaking point, because they know that if these bills get passed, like it's over for them.
So can you explain to us what the percentage of the population? India is a country of like over 1 billion people, right? So what is the what's the percentage of farmers in India, and how much of an impact, say if they were to go on strike or not to do what they have to do, what big impact would that have on the entire country?
Okay. Karnveer, do y'all know the exact percentage of the farmer?
I believe it was around 60% of the individuals in India are employed by the agriculture industry.
60. Wow.
Yeah, and then so 86% of these are small farm landowners, so they don't own that much land, and most are already in debt. So these farmers are already so poor, and these laws are just like giving them the last like they're already on their knees, and this is just like giving them the push to completely like just fall down straight on their face.
So there's no room for any improvement for anything that they're happening. So we know that you said that this was the tipping point, right? And I know I want to show an image. This is a famous image of Rihanna, right? I think she's the one who kind of took it mainstream. I think when she started tweeting about it and talking about it, that's when everybody's like, okay, what the heck is going on? You know, when you have a celebrity who talks about something. But can somebody like give us a breakdown? Like, how did it begin? What was the actual tipping point? What's the backstory? You know, people don't just up and, you know, like protest sometimes. What is it that really led them to say, you know what, forget it. This is what we got to do.
Sure. I just wanted to make a comment on the previous point. So the world thinks that India is a democracy. It's the world's largest democracy to many people across the world. But the way the bills were passed was completely undemocratic. So that's a point that I think needs to be stressed, because there's video of the individual passing the bills, and he did not allow for anyone to debate the bills being passed. He just said the bills are being passed, and that was that. And it got drowned out by a lot of noise. So that's one major reason why I think so many are protesting today, because there was no say from the beginning. And this was just a push to get privatization started of agriculture. And and then that's how kind of the movement started. And then you saw that picture of Rihanna. So I think that's what elevated this protest, because the protest has been going on for months now. It didn't happen a few days ago or a few weeks ago. The farmers have been protesting on the streets from a couple months now, and it's been going. And since Rihanna elevated it, I think the world got more attention to India.
So when you say people think India is a democratic country, but it's not.
Yeah.
Regardless of the bills, like I'm familiar, you know, my parents come from the Middle East, you know, we know a lot about corruption and things that happen there. Can you three give us an idea of what, how they're being treated? What are some of the, you know, human rights that are being violated? What are some of the issues that they're facing in order to kind of say this is exactly things that has to bring awareness to the rest of the world?
Okay, to briefly describe like who is behind these bills. So Modi, there's the world. I mean, India's richest. Some believe that India's richest man, Ambani, has his eyes on the agriculture sector of India, and Modi is a really good friend of Ambani. Okay.
So you need to explain to the audience, sorry to cut you off, who Modi is and who Bani is. Like people may not know who they are, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister of India, and then Ambani is, I believe he's India's richest man. He's a billionaire. So to briefly describe him, so this man lives in a $2 billion with a B dollar house in the middle of Mumbai. Mumbai, 50% of their population lives in slums. So he has a $2 billion house in the middle of slums. He spent, in 2018, I believe, he spent $100 million on his daughter's wedding. So literally this guy is living, you know, he has like a snow room in his house, $2 billion, whatever he has in there. I don't know what you can possibly make with $2 billion. But right when he steps out the house, he sees a kid begging for food. So there's obviously a difference between success and corruption. And it's kind of obvious to see, like, if a man's living in a $2 billion house, is he successful or is he corrupt?
And you've got some, just always like to tap in with our audience. So full support.
M. Singh. That's
right. M. Singh. Kisaan
you know
Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you all know.
This M. Singh.
Right.
Yeah, that's a friend.
All right.
What does Ramu Kida mean?
It means what's up.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay.
In Punjabi,
Right.
I'm assuming?
Yeah, Kida
Okay.
means what's up. Yeah.
Okay.
Very
All
cool.
right.
Yeah.
How about Kisaan? What is this? Can you? Is there an English translation for Kisaan, or is anything? You know,
Farmer.
Okay.
Farmer. Okay. So is it
Okay.
redundant to say Kisaan farmers protest in India? Isn't it kind of saying like farmers protest in India?
Yeah.
Y'all should have
Yeah.
corrected me. Now I'm like thinking I'm being redundant with myself with that one. So going back to like the bills and the movement, how is this impacting any of you personally? Like, do you have family there? Do you know friends? What's your stake in this whole entire protest? And I'd love to hear from Ramneet, who's been kind of silent as well.
Yep. So I'll tap in over here. So, my parents don't come from a farming background, but all our grandparents coming from that region were exposed to farming. My grandmother's family actually owned acres of land, which is now in present-day Pakistan, but it was India before partition. So there's a farming background in every Sikh or Punjabi's roots, I would say. And there's always a little string in your heart that when you see people suffering back in your home country on asking for their basic human rights and basically asking for, they're the ones that are serving the food to all of the people of the world, and they're the ones that are not being respected. If the farmers are the ones that are not going to grow your food, those people aren't being respected because they grow your food, right? So the individuals that are imposing these bills on the farmers, right, they should be actually thanking the farmers for providing them with food and growing their crops. But in the end of the day, they're actually just slapping them in the face and saying that we want to just take over your land, we want to take your money in return, instead of helping them out.
So I want to share really quick so people are familiar with what region we're talking about, just to give a little bit of a geography, because I think people kind of need to know. So let's get this up really quick. So when we're talking about the area, right, this is the area in yellow. Like here's more of the Punjab region of what is now Pakistan. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
So this is the part in the yellow right here that we're focusing on, correct? That's more of the where the protests are, and part of the region which is also predominantly Sikh, correct? With the fact that it's from the Punjabi region.
So I would say the protests were spearheaded by farmers from Punjab, but the bill is actually for all of India. So
okay.
The farmers of Punjab are actually fighting for all the farmers of India at the current moment. And the protest did start off in Punjab. So the bills were passed in August, and from August to November, the protests were happening in their home cities in Punjab. And that's when they were like, we're not getting any attention and no one's caring about us. So where do we go next? So they decided to march to the capital in their tractors. And that's where that's basically where they got the platform, because they basically blocked up the city, right? They blocked up the capital of India, which is New Delhi. They brought all their tractors, and one of the biggest things was that they weren't able to freely access the capital, and that's where the human rights violation started. Imagine if we're going from New Jersey to Washington, D.C., we would freely be able to cross the Delaware Memorial Bridge, go through the tunnel and everything. But in India, what was happening was when they were crossing state borders, they were being attacked by tear gas, water cannons, and that's from them just freely going on the roads to the Capitol, which they have a democratic right to do. But they were actually met with barricades, tear gas, and water cannons, which was one of the things that made everyone upset. Was all they're doing is driving their tractors and having basically going down to the Capitol. And that's one of the things that it was like a turning point in this, where they're not going to respect us. But in the end, all the farmers were peaceful, and that's the one thing that we keep on saying, that the farmers have been peaceful the whole time. And even though the media tries to turn it in different ways, how the farmers may be violent or they're doing this, doing that, but the farmers have been peaceful the whole time.
Right.
So to piggyback off what Ramneet just said, there's one issue that it's a sick. There's one, I guess you can say, narrative that this is just a sick issue, and then there's another narrative that Ramneet mentioned that this actually affects all farmers in India. And the correct way to think about this is that it's a multifaceted problem, because if these bills do get passed through and they don't get repealed, this is going to impact prices of crops across the country in India, and they're going to skyrocket, and no one's going to be able to afford the prices. And recently, a while ago, I heard about a farmer that literally dumped all his crops on the side of the street because the prices that he was being asked for were completely ridiculous. So if this does get passed and doesn't get repealed, this is going to impact everyone, no matter what their backgrounds are. And the narrative that this is just a sick issue is one that the Indian government loves to prop up to sow division, fear, and hatred, and completely sidetrack what the actual issues are and the severity of the Indian government's injustice. And then people actually buy into it, and then that creates a whole nother mess. So it's like we're always doing damage control with the Indian government, and that's kind of what prohibits us from elevating our voices further.
So it's like divide and conquer from within, because everybody has that internal squabble.
Right.
And then they're too busy doing that to really focus on the larger picture. Taj, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I want to add to what he said. I also feel that the Indian government has really fails to realize the definition of unity. Unity doesn't mean that you can't express your religion. Unity means that every religion is accepted. If someone's religion teaches them to do charity or stand up for their oppressed, every religion actually teaches that. And if you say, look, I'm doing this because I learned this from my religion, what's wrong with saying that? It's not like you're hurting someone, you're actually helping people. Like, you're not saying you hate anyone. Like, that's what I just want to point out, that unity means, I think a lot of people don't realize this, is that unity doesn't mean that you can't express your religion. Unity means that every religion is accepted.
Right.
So we do have some comments. Why don't we go to a few comments? Do you all know Harleen? Anybody? Okay.
Yeah, I know her.
Okay, all right. Just check it. I didn't know how she might be a little biased, but thank you, Harleen, for viewing. She did an amazing job, guys.
I love it.
Another comment from James. He says, farmers supply the world's food. Modi, why is it morally right to put tariffs on farmers and belittle them? So certainly some support for what you all are saying. An additional comment from James, and I don't know if you all want to comment on this. He said, I heard the Indian soldiers were fed by the Kisaan.
Yeah,
so that's one of the things I want to elaborate on. So Sikhs are always, and Punjabis are always seen as individuals that go to the forefront and help out individuals. And the one thing that was circulating all over the place was that when the Kisaans, the farmers, were marching to New Delhi, it was actually when they were met by tear gas and water cannons. The Indian police officers, the Indian army was told to do their jobs, right? That's their job. So we understand that, right? But their job is only 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day. So after that, they're actually going to need a meal. They're actually going to need something to drink, right? So it's actually the farmers, they're the ones, the police officers and the Indian army was the ones that fired tear gas and water cannons at them. But farmers are the ones that were feeding them at the end of their shift. They're feeding them and giving them water. So that's one of the things that was being spread around, that individuals, we have many figures in history, right? So one, I'll talk about Spike Anayaji, which was in the battle, he was actually serving water to both his individuals in the army and the opposite members of the army. So even the enemies he was serving, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? Whether you think you're right or whether you think you're wrong, we all need the basic necessities in life to live. And when you're serving others, you don't look at what views they have or what views they don't have. It's just serving others as humanity is one. So that's what the Kisaans always believed in and always will believe in. No matter if you attack us, we're gonna give you love back. We're not gonna attack you back. We're gonna give you love back.
Is that also something that is deep rooted in the Sikh belief system as well? Is that also like a deeply religious rooted idea that is very common among the Sikh community of, being peaceful, giving back, always being part of the community? So does that have something to do with it as well?
Yeah, right. So that is actually one of the main tenets of the Sikh faith. One of it is Wandke Chakna, right, which is serving others before you serve yourself. So that is one of the three main tenets, and that is one of the main tenets, and that's why many Sikhs are always on the front lines, like the organization Khalsa Aid, right? No matter if it's a Sikh issue, Muslim issue, Christian issue, no matter if it's not even a religious issue, it's just a common problem. They're an organization that goes to different places of need all over the world, no matter where it is.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Excellent. We got a few more comments I want to share. This goes back to what Taj has shared. Matal says, unity regardless of religion, something India should understand. So you all really bringing out some great comments here. Thanks to our viewers. And then here's actually a question. Do I want to go to that one? Let's go to, here's a question. Maybe you all can respond to this question. So Sunny says, good job, guys. Could you guys expand on the human right violations and illegal arrest made by the Indian government? So does anybody want to weigh in on that?
So human rights violations are something that the Indian government loves to use. This isn't just something that's unique to this farmers' protest currently. It's in their history that they use human rights violations as a way to suppress, oppress, and harass minorities that speak up against the injustices of the Indian government. And this farmers' protest currently, journalists have been detained. The famous Nodeep Kaur, she was sexually harassed and abused while in police custody for speaking truth to power. And then countless other violations like cutting water supply off to farmers, police brutality, farmers just peacefully marching on the streets have been beaten up. There was a case of Ranjit Singh who actually defended women from being harassed by the police, and he was sent off to jail. So there's a long history of these kind of human rights abuses, and that's because, again, the Indian government is well aware of its oppressive nature, and one way to kind of sidetrack and kind of avoid that from being brought to attention globally is to suppress minorities that speak up. And the thing that makes this time so unique is that we have the power of media. Back in the day, during the Sikh genocide in 1984, there was no Twitter, no Instagram. That's how the Indian government got away with it. And to this day, they have not been held accountable for the genocide against the Sikh community. So the reason why this time is different is because the whole world is watching. So if they do act up, then it's gonna be terrible for the Modi government.
Got you. And this comment is really this is resonating with me. So Jaspreet says India has learned from England very well about the divide and conquer concept. So we just spoke about that, and I'm just thinking historically, when you have situations where the colonizer goes in, takes over, and then even once the colonizer moves on, the damage has been done to the society, and then the corruption sets in, and you get, this is how this is connected with me, because this has happened the world over. But I don't know if any our guests want to comment on this comment.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So although I was born and raised here, I've learned Sikh history. My dad's always taught me about 1984, about all our history. And the thing is that sorry, I lost my train of thought, but we are seeing history being repeated, and this time though it's different because we're not silent. Like last time, I mean, in '84, we didn't have a platform to speak on, and then when it comes to like dividing, so that's what Modi tried to do. He tried to use the Sikh religion to divide the people, but the thing is, this time I feel like this time the unity of like the Kisaans all over India is much stronger than Modi's lies. Like everything that central Indian government does now is just like, really, did you just really do this? Like they just keep on making themselves look worse and worse instead of addressing the problem. And they're just gonna keep on making this get worse and worse and worse. And if they would have that's the thing, right? If they would have, when the farmers first started in December, if they would have like solved their issue then all their secrets are coming out right now. Like they recently, I think last month, finally gave Kashmir back the internet, right? And like that's the thing, like I feel like the spotlight is on India right now, and that's the only reason they haven't attempted another genocide.
Yeah, I see. They're more exposed right now.
Right.
I wanted to expand on that. So like how we were just talking about how they're more exposed right now. Like the reason Rihanna came into the light, right? Once she shared it, India got so scared that they actually got all their Bollywood actors to tweet saying that this don't go into false propaganda. And you can see when you see all their tweets, they're copy and pasted, right? So they're all from one person. So you can see that the Indian government got so scared because Rihanna is an international figure, right? So they were like, if this is going to get international attention, we have to refute it somehow. So they made all the Bollywood actors tweet that this was all false propaganda and don't believe into it. So that's one tactic that the Indian government, because they knew that they had to do something because it was getting international attention.
Right.
And even after Rihanna, it got all the other individuals from abroad to start sharing, and now people know where to go for the real news and what is fake news. So that's one thing that international people can learn about.
Another point I just want to quickly add is that the media companies themselves are funded by Ambani. Ambani is that rich billionaire that we were discussing. So there's a connection between the suppression we see on social media platforms and the fact that Ambani and Adani is the other billionaire. Those two gentlemen own or fund all these social media platforms. So there's a connection between kind of the suppression we see of those that are raising their voices against the Indian government, and the fact that they're in cahoots basically with the two people that are going to end up profiting the most out of these three bills.
Right. They have a monopoly on the whole system.
Yep.
Basically, so they've got that right.
Yep. And here's a comment, in support of what you all were talking about. Indian government went as far as blacking out media, blocking internet service, cell service, and we know it is about control, right? So we do have another comment I wanted to share. The farmers' protest. This is from Harmeet. The farmers' protest represents the protest or struggle of every Indian citizen who has been oppressed at the hands of the government. Thank you for talking about this movement. So this is, again, I mean, you all are schooling me on some things. Like I said, I did some background reading, but to hear this perspective, I really appreciate it. Apparently we've got some folks viewing tonight who are right in line and very aware of what you all are speaking about. So thank you again for you all speaking truth to power, as you all said earlier.
Right.
All right.
So before we go to our next question, just a really quick history. I mean, a country like India should not have such a horrific reputation for starving their people, right? It's a very wealthy country with resources. But we know, going back to England, many people don't know, but Winston Churchill created a famine in India because, taking all those resources, especially the crops. So there's a history with that of really exporting them more to other countries and leaving a lot of them on ships to rot without feeding the actual people in India. So I think history is kind of repeating itself, unfortunately, but now it's not the colonizer, it's the actual people themselves from India, which is a damn shame because, again, a country like India, regardless of 1 billion people, is so blessed with so many resources. Things like this should not happen. So Just want to give that out.
And how about let's talk about Monsanto for a minute, because that's a name I'm familiar with. This goes back to my college days. About we were, a lot of talk about it was like 3 companies that control like the food supply of the whole planet.
Wow.
You talk about, I guess, genetically modified organisms and things of that nature. But so I'm a little familiar with Monsanto. But talk to us about how they tie into this whole issue. And then this is like Bayer has recently bought out Monsanto, I think about 3 years ago from what I read. But talk to us about this.
Okay, so I know a little bit about this. So India is a leading producer of cotton in the world, and Monsanto, the Monsanto seeds are genetically engineered cotton seeds, right? So these seeds contain Bt genes, and Bt is a bacterium which is toxic to many species of insects, right? So therefore, these seeds were like introduced with claims of pest control and therefore like decreasing pesticide. They also had claims that they would increase yields. However, they actually did the opposite. The insects grew resistant to the seed, and even more new pests emerged. So therefore, what the seeds actually did was increase the cost with the same yield. And when it comes to increased cost, you also got to like take into factor, like the labor, everything increased, but like they were going to still get the same amount of money back. They had to increase pests that all cost so much. And then the seeds were expensive themselves. So yeah, that's the thing. Like this is like a breaking point for the farmers. So it's like a timeline. You can see like there's been like many things that have purposely been done to weaken farmers.
Right. Like you said, all this cutting into the farmers' profits. You were talking about most of these are working families, and you can see how this is pushing them further into poverty.
Yeah, right? And then I don't understand if 60% of your population have to do with agriculture. How do you not make sure the seed you're about to give to all your you're a leading producer of cotton, that this seed is not going to cause more damage than good? Like how do you not? Is there like a lack of science? I mean, I just don't understand. It was like, I mean, maybe it was an accident. They didn't realize that what this would do, the seeds would actually, the insects would actually become resistant. I mean, but that's kind of obvious. Anybody with any science background can understand that.
Right. And we're talking like Monsanto, right? It's not like some, back alley outfit, right? This is like a multinational, right? Okay, yeah. Like they didn't do their research.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I mean, how did the insect, with the claims that it was introduced with, it didn't work, and it's $1 billion. Like, come on, they need to be held accountable.
But isn't Monsanto also known for creating really horrific pesticides and chemicals for crops? And so is this also something that's impacting some of the crops or even some of the farmers in India? Is that another layer to what's going on? Like, besides the prices, are farmers also fearing that some of this can also be detrimental for them in the long run?
To be completely honest, I have only done a little bit like research on the seeds itself. Like I don't want to state something that I don't clearly know about. So, but I'm pretty sure like any chemicals, adding food to chemicals is never good.
Right.
Like,
so I want to add a little bit about the pesticides and stuff. So like during the Green Revolution, it was a time where farming was at its highest in India, and they wanted to, like in America, they started using pesticides. So they also wanted to start using pesticides in India. So that was part of the Green Revolution. And the Green Revolution, the turnout of, they've made all the farmers basically put these pesticides on their crops. And you see the results of it 10 years later, that the land that was fertile is actually non-fertile now. It's actually destroyed the land. So they were all told to put these pesticides on their crops because it was just a revolution that was going on during that time. But now you see the effects of it, that it actually ended up destroying the land.
Right. So thinking of the bills and the laws before we go to our next question. So Ramneet, you're in medicine, you're a nurse, and Taj, you're doing your PharmD, and Karanveer, you're doing politics. So magic wand, we put all three of you together. How would you respond to this protest if you guys, all three of you, had access to making a change? What would you three do with all three of your backgrounds?
So one of the ways that I would help out if I wasn't in school right now, to be honest, I feel like I would be in India right now on the front line.
Oh wow!
There's actually a doctor from New Jersey, actually, Dr. Swayman Singh, and he's a doctor where he's actually treating on the front lines, because all of these individuals, there are individuals at the protest that are getting hurt, obviously, from the police brutality, but there's also an issue in India that not everyone has access to medical care. So most of the time these individuals did not actually even receive the basic medical care that they should have. So it's actually this doctor that went from New Jersey, he set up a camp there that's actually doing wound care where a lot of individuals are getting hurt. And recently, since the weather is getting better there's a lot of issues with malaria going on, which everyone knows goes to mosquitoes as the weather gets warmer. And as the sites were actually given from the Indian government, they were being cleaned before they were being cleaned, but now the sites are not being cleaned, and there's no water access at the sites, and there's no sanitation rooms. The Indian government was first providing that at one point, but they refused to give anything at this point now, and that's causing the malaria issue at the sites to go up. So if it was in my hands, Dr. Swayman's doing a great job in India right now, providing individuals with the basic necessities and the basic care that there is needed. But if I was able to go, I would also be doing something along similar lines.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So just touching on the previous point again, so I think there is from a climate perspective, there's a major problem as well. So Punjab, translated in English, means the land of the five rivers. And as Ramneet was mentioning earlier, what the Indian government did was essentially divert Punjab's water out of Punjab without compensating the state at all for literally taking their resources. And so essentially today, it's not even the land of five rivers anymore, it's two rivers. And the water table itself in Punjab is depleting. And I remember my dad actually talking to me about a relative who was saying that by 2050, Punjab, the most fertile land in the world earlier, is going to turn into a desert by 2050. And that's because this is all planned. It was all planned from the beginning that one way to crush the spirit of those in Punjab is to essentially destroy their economy and destroy their resources. And that was one way of doing it without actually causing bloodshed, is to do it invisibly and make it look like it's no big deal, nothing's happening. But in the background, it's all an insidious plan to kind of crush the spirit of those in Punjab. And
So going into the politics, though, Karanveer, how would you use your knowledge and your goal to go into politics with this particular movement? Magic wand.
So politically, I think what the problem I'm seeing in this country, in America, is that we're propping up our relationship with India before the injustices that are happening and before our ethical and moral duty to call out these injustices. And I've seen it in the responses of politicians. It's clearly they're trying to appease voters in this country, and they're trying to keep their power, and they're trying to maintain an image, and that isn't the way to go. So the example I give is of Senator Cory Booker, who I interned for, and his letter is the example that we need to follow in this country, because he powerfully and strongly called out the Indian government, laid out all the issues, and didn't hold back. And I think that's politically what needs to be done. I am aware of the American Sikh Caucus in Congress, and they haven't given out a powerful response like Cory Booker's. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think we just need to find our spines, because right now we're spineless, and if I had some power, Modi would be afraid.
Wow. Those are some tough words that you gave out to, people in politics. So, maybe they'll take it to heart and find the spine, as you say. And Taj, last
Okay,
so from my food science background, I did the industry route. So I learned about the business side and the agriculture economic side as well. So if I had a magic wand at this point, I would obviously repeal the laws, but you got to realize that even if those laws are, there's still an obvious problem. Like, all these farmers are still going to be in debt. They're still starving. You know what I mean? So I feel like there needs to be a better system in Punjab or all of India for farmers, where somehow we're able to, first of all, every state should decide how they want to run it. It shouldn't be the central government, right? So, but somehow we can make a system where these farmers are able to manufacture, process, package everything by themselves. And then that way, there's so many middlemen that are corrupt can be cut out, and those farmers can get actually paid for their harvest.
Right.
Even though there exists the MSP today, these farmers still don't most of the time get paid the MSP. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a lot of middlemen that need to be cut out of the system. A lot of corruption. There needs to be more laws, stricter laws. But I'm an American citizen. I've only been to India twice in my life, so I don't really, to my knowledge, the Indian government is really corrupt. So there's poor leadership.
Right.
There needs to be a change in leadership.
Wow. All right. I know I'm soaking all this in because all right, I'll reflect later. That's what I usually do. I soak it in now and reflect after you all have moved on with your evening. So let's talk about Sikhs, which you all represent, the Sikh faith. Sikhs are called the warrior class. Talk to us about why that is. Why are they called the warrior class? Why are you called the warrior class?
Sure. So to answer this, we have to go through a little brief history. So when the British first came to India, they saw the Sikhs and they saw our potential, and they realized that we were intelligent, we were smart, we liked our spirit, our warrior spirit, and they essentially what they did was they turned us into cannon fodder. They put us into battle. They put us into fighting, trained us, and so when people say that we're a warrior class, it kind of takes away from the intelligence of the Sikh community. And
interesting.
So it's important to understand that yes, there is a warrior spirit in the Sikh community. We aren't pacifists. If someone is going to attack you, it's your duty to stand up and defend yourself, and it's your duty to defend others who are being oppressed and attacked. So that's one aspect of it, and the other aspect is that that's one of the reasons why there's so many Sikhs in the Indian Army, is because of that history of pushing Sikhs to the front and saying, "Hey, you guys are great. Sikhs are awesome people. Fight for our battles." And the moment that Sikhs speak up, you're terrorists and you're extremists. So it's one way to kind of prop up Sikhs and let them feel empowered, because they allow you to say your jukara is what it's called. It's essentially like a war cry, a Sikh war cry, and they freely allow that when Sikhs are fighting in the Indian Army. But as soon as they see that same war cry out on those protests, it's all of a sudden it's an extremist issue.
Right.
So it's that kind of back and forth that we're dealing with.
So would you consider it? Is it a compliment, or is it something that's degrading, or is it a mixture of two? Is it a stereotype? What is it if people were to call Sikhs the warrior class?
I mean, partly it's. I mean, I don't find any issue with it. It's just that there needs to be more awareness behind how that came to be. and because there's a much deeper history behind it. Because in one sense, it just makes us, like I mentioned earlier, just like people that just fight to fight. And the Indian government, that's what they like, is that we just keep fighting for their battles. But the moment we speak up, that warrior class is all of a sudden a terrorist class. So, yeah.
We become a monolith as opposed to everything else that, right.
Like we were discussing earlier, how like people need to understand that, like, you know, we don't always have to play defense. Like it's time for us to play offense now.
Right. I like that. I always like football references as well when we're talking here. You know? I love everything. That's a very deep conversation. Like I said earlier, I love the energy, all the, you know, this young blood, as we call it. So we also have this link, the American Sikh Council has a lot about what you can do to support all farmers against the Farmers Act in the Republic of India. So if anybody's interested as well, that's, I think just going to the AmericanSikhCouncil.org, you can find a plethora of information regarding, you know, anything that you can do for the farmers, but also learn a little bit more about the Sikh community. So do we have any other comments that we want to share, Doug, as we start wrapping things up?
I don't know if you all want to mention that. I thought this was kind of fascinating. So I was looking, Jaspreet had this comment about, I guess when the law, so Modi, he started to implement the laws to get rid of federal mandates and hoarding in Gujarat, and they are suffering there, and that's his home state. So I don't know if you all, that seems particularly nefarious to me. So if I understand this correctly, is this true, or do you all know anything about this? I guess that he actually started some of this oppression, if you will, started implementing these laws in his own home state and like crippling his home state.
Well, one thing I know about his home state was until 2015, until our great President Trump let him into the United States, he was banned from America for doing a genocide against Muslims in 2015 in his own home state, Gujarat. I do that.
And that ties in with Jaspreet's last comment. There you go. Okay, so Taj is, he was tied to massacres of Muslims, banned for entering the USA for 10 years. So
I actually did not know that. I knew Modi had a history, but I didn't know. And not because I'm Muslim. I'm just, the banned part is what gets me, is like how soon the tables turn.
Right.
You know,
and we've seen that in the history of this, in the history of the U.S. government. We've seen stuff like that, right? And then Jaspreet, he said anti-hoarding, not hoarding. So thank you, Jaspreet, for that.
Yeah. And if you shake hands with someone that has him, and if you shake hands with somebody that's hands are stained with blood, your hands get blood on them too.
Right.
Yes. I always believe that there's no like gray area to stand in when it comes to injustice. You either, it's really black and white. You either stand for the oppressed and speak up, or if you're remaining silent, you're against them.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, that's what's astounding about all of this, is that how do you support someone who literally instigated genocide and perpetrated it? All these people in America supporting Modi on one hand and ridiculing and calling out Trump on the other hand makes no sense to me, especially because Modi himself is a perpetrator of genocide. So how do you support one and then denounce the other? That makes no sense.
Right. And that's why you're going into the politics, Karanveer.
Yeah.
Ramneet, you were going to say something, I believe?
Yes, I want to add something. So like one of the main things that as individuals that are living in America, one of the main things that we need to do, as Karanveer was saying before, that we need to contact our local representatives, right? Have them make a statement, have them speak up, because one of the biggest things that we've seen is like Kamala Harris, right? She got a lot of South Asian support.
Good point.
During the elections, right? But right now, she hasn't said even a word. Even President Joe Biden, right? And one of the reasons why they're not saying anything is because we know they have ties with India, right? They have trade ties. They obviously don't want to ruin those trade ties, because in the beginning of this protest, the Canadian government, Justin Trudeau, actually released a statement, and the Indian Foreign Affairs actually asked him, why did you say this, right? They were actually having a ongoing conflict about that. Oh, we're going to end trade ties with you or something. Because he actually, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, said that he supports the democratic right to peacefully protest in support of the farmers' protest. And the Indian government got real mad at him for releasing a statement. And I feel like that's why the American government doesn't want to release a statement. But one of the big wins that we had was that the National Farmers Union of America actually released a statement, which is the statement basically said that they support the farmers of India because they don't want the same thing that happened in America in the 1970s and the 1980s to happen in India. So they know the effects of what happened in the 1970s and 1980s. They don't want the same things to happen in India. And what India should take from that statement is as a lesson is why you should be learning from a developed country. America is a developed country. So why aren't you listening to them, or why aren't you seeing from what worked and what didn't? Why are you introducing the same system that destroyed all the small farmers in America to the systems in India? So it's something that India needs to take a look at before implementing something. You want to implement something that's going to work. Why set people up for failure? So that's one thing that the National Farmers Union of America actually put a statement out for.
But your point about our new vice president, you know, as they say now, bloop, right there, like, you know, all of the votes that she got, are we going to act upon that? So those are all very, very heavy and valid points that you make. So anything you want to add, Doug, before we ask our last two questions for our guests?
No, I think we can start to wrap it up. I mean, because the thing is, we could probably start to wrap it up, or we could just like open it up for another hour.
I know.
Apparently, like I said, these good young folks have, they're involved, they're passionate. They've taught me quite a bit this evening. No, I just appreciate the time that you all have given to share your perspective, to share your story, to enlighten us this evening. So thank you.
I agree. Never, ever disappointed. All right. So as we wrap things up, Doug and I have our famous little babies, as we call them, our stories. So this is my baby. So the question for all three of you, you can do this individually. Which artist would you have perform an album about your life and why? And what would the album title be? Which artist and title?
This is a tough question, but yeah. So I listen to a lot of Punjabi music, so I'm gonna actually use a American artist. So I sometimes do Punjabi.
We would love something. Yeah, whatever you want, Ramneet.
Yeah, I'll do an American artist because sometimes I like to put the radio on and bob my head. So I'm gonna choose Taylor Swift. I actually had a friend that introduced me to Taylor Swift in high school, and people may say, "Oh, why her?" Right? But I feel like every time I listen to her, I'm able to understand her lyrics, right? So they resonate with me, and I feel like she always gets you pumping, right? Even though the music's not too loud or too slow, it's the right style of music that gets you motivated and gets you pumping on what you want to do. So, like, what would I call the album title? I would call it Started from the Bottom, because I feel like everyone starts from the bottom, right? And there's always many different things that you learn in life. And life's like building blocks. You're always just stacking. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up somewhere. So you always learn from your mistakes, and you learn from just life lessons in general.
Okay, so Ramneet Singh has Taylor Swift sing his album. I like it. And he threw it in there like slickly, oh, I met her. So it's like, okay, name dropping as well, but we'll let that one slide right now. Karanveer or
next album. Who's releasing their album next?
I guess Beyonce is my favorite singer, so I would go with Beyonce. I don't know what the name of my title, the title of my album would be, because I don't know, maybe my name, Taj, something, I don't know.
It's a nice name.
My name means crown.
Right. So same in Arabic, as Taj means crown. So that's pretty cool, the cross pollination. Nice, Taj, are you the one do you live in Jersey or in Texas?
I'm in Texas.
See, there'd probably be an homage to her homegirl, Beyonce's from
her
Texas,
fellow
right?
Texan, right?
There you go. So, okay, we see loyalty there. How about you, Karanveer? I know we asked this question to you before, but let's see what you give us again.
I guess this time around, I'd be remiss if I didn't, I guess, prop up Rihanna.
There you go.
I would use Rihanna because there's bias involved here because of her work in elevating our voices. But that would be the artist, and then my album title would be "We're Just Getting Started."
Ooh, I like that.
Nice.
That's deep.
Good.
All
We got
right.
three good albums you got to go pick up. You all heard it here first. And then Jaspree's been very active. So are you all Jazzy B, Elbow Cough? I don't know if you all are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's a prominent Punjabi singer. Jazzy
Okay,
B.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So props to Jazzy B. All right. So before we get out of here, we got one more question, and then we're gonna let you all go about your evening. So we issue a challenge, and we call it the 4x4 challenge. So we kind of base I base my existence almost on hip hop. It really helped to grow me into the man I am today. So we try to honor hip hop on each and every episode. So all we ask of our guests, if you look at the 4 pillars of hip hop, you have your graffiti art, you have your DJing, breaking, which is, B-boy, B-girl, and then you got your MCing. So out of those 4 pillars, we just asked our guests if you can name one artist from each of the 4 pillars. And you all have an advantage because it's 3 of you all. So surely amongst the 3 of you all, you can actually come up with 4 answers to answer our challenge. So challenge has been presented. You all can dice it up however you want it. You can all jump in, teamwork, however you want to do it.
So we have to name an artist from all these different
genres,
I guess. Genres.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, for DJ, we could decide DJ Khaled.
Yes.
DJ Khaled. All right.
All right. Off and running.
MC. If you look at MC, Nick Cannon, would he count as an MC?
He actually would.
Yes, I never thought of him as an MC.
Yeah, Nick.
Okay.
I mean, comedy,
He's a good host.
He's prolific.
Like a host. Yeah, he does. And I think okay. All right. I think Romney's coming. It's good because you always have people approach the challenge. Okay, so we got Nick Cannon, DJ Khaled. All right, got halfway there.
What are the other 2 again?
Graffiti artist. Yep.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Right. And a B-boy, a B-girl, a break dancer.
Got it.
Going way back. Well, you still got a bunch of breakers out now, but see what y'all can come up with.
I actually don't know the answers to any of those 2.
Taj, do you have anything? No.
No.
Right.
There is a sick. I know his name, but I'm like I don't know how his name just slipped my mind. He always whenever there's like a major event in the world, he always draws and paints. What's his name? He's really popular. You guys don't know what I'm talking about.
I see Karanvir doing a little bit of research. He's like typing on there. He's doing a little bit of research. Like, okay.
Google over there.
You guys know his name is like Ink something. Ink. I don't know.
Y'all got me want to do some research. All right.
I know.
All right, Todd. I'm going to do some research. Make sure you don't just make up stuff.
All right. I'm not making up stuff, but like I just always look at his art because his art's always so meaningful.
Okay.
I forgot his name.
I guess we stumped him on the B-boy and B-girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna tell you, Taj, if Beyonce is your favorite singer, certainly you can give us an MC, can't you? From that same household. Hint.
Her husband.
Jay-Z.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, well, that's
All right.
good. I mean, all
right, good. So thank you all for playing along. We appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Again, if you would like to know more information, you can just go to AmericanSickCouncil.org. But this link also takes you more in depth to the farmers' protest and what's going on. As usual, I'm always honored to be around my Sikh brothers and sisters. I always learn so much. I love everything that you do and you stand for. So thank you for coming on our show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate
it. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Hopefully we'll see you again. All right. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for using your platform to spread awareness.
And this is why we started, actually. Doug and I started. We wanted to give, like you said, voice to the voiceless or even expand our horizons. So we're hoping that's what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night.
Take care.
Everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye. So that was great.
That was.
We have any more comments? Oh, I don't know.
I think I know we should have asked.
Is that right?
I know, right?
So, I guess it means. Yes,
there you go. So Jaspreet with a happy birthday
Mm-hmm.
for Conver as he steps off set. So it was a good night. It was a full episode. It was deep. Really between our guests, the comments, really just enlightening. I said, to dig into this issue and really start to unpack some things, get a much deeper understanding. So like you said, Abir, I hope we did, we're able to magnify voices that are rarely heard, highlight, spotlight some folks that we know, that we're so fortunate to know, so blessed to know. So,
and saying that, that young energy. And speaking of young energy, our next episode is?
Yes. Oh, very excited. So next episode, which will be on March 17th in 2 weeks, we will welcome Erica L. Green. She's a New York Times correspondent covering federal education policy with a focus on the education department and educational equity. And she is a former student of mine. So I am so proud of Erica and the work she's been doing. So it's going to be exciting to actually speak with Erica in 2 weeks. So please join us for that. And until then, I'm just a lot of reflection. Abir, you know me, I process things at a slower speed, a very deliberate speed. So really, like I said, just a lot to really think about through this episode. And it's good to be here, rolling through March with some good stuff. So
I do too. Yes. And music provided by our friend Corey Carter, who I believe will be on our show later this month.
That's right. Little bonus preview. So we'll finally get Mr. Carter here with us. So we're excited about that too.
So stay tuned for another 2 weeks. We hope to see everybody soon. And again, thank you, Japneet, for giving us this idea.
Thank you.
And we will see everybody in 2 weeks. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.